Hello and welcome to the PinkUn show. We are back and we have a new venue. Welcome to the Fat Cat and Canary on Thorpe Road in Norwich. Yes, the one with the chalkboard Daniel Farker mural outside. So make sure you get to see that while it's still there. We are here to bring you our dedicated Norwich City shenanigans that is still sleep deprived from the City ground. I am Michael Bailey and I reckon we've got a cracker of a show lined up for you tonight. We'll bring you all the latest Canaries discussion, reflect over two disappointing results of course, and ahead to a very big game at the weekend with an AGM soon to follow. We'll also hear from our studio guests, which this week, a stellar duo, I have to say, of former City Player of the Season, Greg Downs, and former Fleet Street football hack, Mick Dennis. Gentlemen, how are we?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
It's a serene, environment, Mick.
I'm freaked out because this used to be my local. I used to share a flat opposite in Thorpe Road. This used to be the Mustard Pot. And the last time I was in here, I was certainly in no state to answer questions about football.
We'll see how the night goes. You never know. Strange things have happened. Now, we are live on PinkUn.com, live on the PinkUn YouTube channel. We've got loads for you over the next half an hour or so. And we want to hear from you too, be it on Carrow Road's atmosphere, last night's defeat, of course, or, of course, James Maddison's forthcoming birthday. So get your questions, comments and banter through to us in the pub. All you need to do is post in the live chat section of our YouTube feed, and that will ping your words straight through to this very phone here in the pub. And just to point out, I know in the past we've had toilet doors in our background. Today we've got the entrance in the background, so you can keep track of who's coming and going, which is always good, of course. Now, despite a long night, we can all agree Wesley Moulahan, of course, looks fresh as a daisy. And this time, this is her time to shine, as we bring you this week's headlines. Barnsley boos. Carrow Road takes unkindly to Tykes Point.
Hello.
City flounder. Hello.
Are we live now?
We are live on the headlines.
Superb.
Come back, stay there, don't go anywhere.
Right.
City flounder at Forest. Ex-Ipswich striker Daryl Murphy sticks the boot in on what Farker calls City's best away performance of the season. Sticking Pritch back together. I'm not sure that works. Alex Pritchard gets 45 minutes on his comeback with the under-23s. The clamber to have him back in the first team grows with each dropped point. And finally,
What a beauty.
Alec awaits. With City's AGM this time next week, the only game standing in its way is an Alec Neil reunion with Preston. Can you handle that, Carrow Road? There we go. Oh. Thank you, Wesley. She's lost her flag. Hello there, sir. Do you want to say hello?
Oh, hello to the PinkUn fans, all the subscribers. Top work, top work.
Is that your name in there? Your name?
My name? Stu.
Stu. Thank you, Stu. Stu's,
Beef stew.
Stu's taking a liking to Wesley Moulahan, so we're going to leave Stu there for a moment. I haven't even got to mention my beard, which raised 600 quid for being shaved off, so there we go, 600 pounds for community space donation. Thank you, Stu. Don't go too far away. It might be Stu, well, not Moo. Anyway, Forest reflections I've got here to start off with, which is not the best place to start, I suppose, but really disappointing night, and in the context of how Norwich have been doing in recent weeks, it's not great at the moment.
Yeah, I think the trouble is, the system we keep playing. Yeah, we keep it tight, so we don't let too much in. But the trouble is, again, every time we go behind, you do have that sort of nagging thing inside you that says, well, we're never going to score a goal to come back in at them again. So it was almost like an inevitability, really, that it's as soon as Forest get a lead, then that's the end of it.
Yeah, it was a tricky one on Tuesday, I thought, Mick, because Norwich did play better when Daniel. We'll talk about Daniel Farker's comments in a moment, but Norwich did play better than on Saturday, as you mentioned before we started. When they got behind, it all felt rather predictable.
Yeah, I was there, as you know, travel home and away, and I think everyone who was there felt that at half-time the mood was good. I understand when Daniel says it was our best away performance because elements of it were very good. Obviously the possession, but also the fact that possession was in their third, because with Vrancic and Reed in the two sort of holding positions, both of them do get forward, and so we had plenty of people up top. It wasn't a shortage of personnel. But I agree with Greg. When the goal went in, I think we all thought, well, I don't think we're going to score, and so there's no point in painting any other picture or glossing over it. It is hugely, crushingly depressing at the moment.
Is there an issue with Norwich being predictable in terms of their attacking role? Because I do sense that there's too often they're getting to the edge of the area and it's all getting a bit bogged down. And even in the first half, when they did control the game and they were better than Forest, they did kind of come to a halt at the edge of the penalty area all too often.
Yeah, I think that's okay. That's sort of fair. The system they play has its strengths and it has its weaknesses. It doesn't allow for pace, and our best moments, home and away, have been when Pinto goes balmy on a barnstorming run, the sort of thing Greg used to do on the other flank, and you know, when there's a bit of pace injected. That's why they sometimes bring on Yannick. So I do think it needs addressing, the system we play, but you know, let's not chuck it all away yet, please. There's some extraordinary overreactions to last night's defeat.
We recorded a PinkUn podcast this afternoon as well. We're busy guys, me, Paddy and David Freezer. And we touched on Daniel Farke's comments about it being the best away performance of the season. And I feel a little bit for him because clearly he was trying to put a message out to his players off the back of Barnsley that this was better at Forest. But at the same time, the fans' reaction to that has been, well, hang on, we've played supposedly that well away from home. We don't necessarily agree. And B, you've lost.
I think the trouble is, I think it's normally in recent weeks, it's been the actual performances themselves, not so much the results. You know, especially like last week, obviously against Barnsley, where you know, you're at home and the other team have dominated the game, and you think, well, that shouldn't be happening to if you like, a mid-table clash, in the sense that was a game that could have put us right on the edge of the playoffs again. And here we are, we go and draw 1-1, then we lose again, and I think it's just frustrating for people who are. I think it is the nature of the way we're playing. I think, you know, we're effectively almost like playing six at the back, which I've commented on, as you know, in the past, that I can't see how that when we get it, and you've just alluded to that, Mick, that when we do get it, then we've not got enough players normally to go forward, to go and create something. I think it's a good system away from home, but we're still playing it at home as well. And you're literally saying to the four players in front of that six, go and create. But with all due respect, they're not going to, because A, either not good enough, don't know that yet, but they don't look good enough at the moment to go and do that on their own. And I think that's a big problem we've got. I think he's got to come up with a system, especially at home, that's going to turn things around.
And is there a personnel issue in that as well? Because there are the midfield is quite a similar makeup, really, when you look at the type of players that Mario, James Maddison, Wes, of course, and Alex Pritchard, who we all want to see back. How Daniel Farke gets him into a midfield so that it's got a different dynamic is going to be a real challenge.
The whole issue about this is something that I had a conversation with Delia 15 years ago. She said, "What's the secret?" I said, "You win football matches. You win football matches, people think you're a genius, and if you lose them, they think you're an idiot, and you sometimes haven't done anything differently." You know, September seems a long time ago, but September we were magnificent with this system, and you know,
yeah. I wouldn't say we were grinding out results.
As a Norwich fan, travelling home from Sheffield United and Middlesbrough, that felt magnificent.
Absolutely,
Greg. So what I'm saying is, it is entirely about results.
Yeah.
In question of personnel, during September, when Wes and Maddison were on the pitch together, they were unplayable. You know, and the touch of last night was won by one incisive moment, with an old-fashioned centre forward got across in front of his marker and slid into a decent ball at the near post. We didn't ever look capable of doing that. We don't have a striker who does that, so that's an issue. That's an issue for me. But we're 6 points away from the playoffs with a completely rebuilt squad, a game in hand on some of the people. It's not the apocalypse.
Absolutely, no, it's not. I mean, there's a lot to be played for still. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, we've had a bad little run. We had a good run before that. Now we're having a bad little run. It can turn around again. That's what football does to you all the time.
The only thing I do want to pick up on before we move this on, though, at Carrow Road, because a lot of the good work was done away from home, as you alluded to, Mick. You know, coming back from Reading, coming back from Middlesbrough, Sheffield United, fantastic results. Arsenal to a degree as well. The frustration that kind of, you know, was perfectly evident against Barnsley, that came from several weeks where the home fans feel, and a lot of them, that they aren't really getting what they want to see, and that seems like a tricky one, especially heading into the weekend.
Well, it is, and Greg said that, you know, the system doesn't work at home, so it will turn around if we win matches, and if it doesn't, you know, something else will have to take place. I don't think we should throw the system away. That's what they work on. You know, last night there were moments when Hanley in particular just hoofed it clear, and it comes straight back at you when you do that. At home, teams fall back on their own penalty area. so possession's not an issue for us, and we've just got to have players like Wes and Maddison making telling passes, and you know, when we come to talk about our team, I'd put Jerome back in because he brings much more to the team than Nelson does.
Early teaser there. Early teaser. Go on, Greg.
Well, you see, nice. I have this big argument, and a big bugbear of mine is that we keep playing one up front. Now, if we had players who, if you like, we were talking early on about different players, you know, that like Barkley, Everton, and people like that, who can pick the ball up midfield and actually run at people. We don't have those players here. We don't. But at the end of the day,
that's why I miss Johnny Howson.
Well, even Johnny Howson, to an extent, was playing quite deep, and so therefore never managed to get the third man run, as we call it. But even that, he wouldn't get the third man run when there's only one up front. The problem is you've got your Maddisons and your Hoolahans. They need a focal point, and especially at home when teams are going to drop deep, we're going to have a lot of the ball. But the trouble is, it's a little bit like when England played Lithuania. Yeah. We had all the ball, but all they did, drop back onto the 18-yard box. Because we only kept Harry Kane up front, we could never penetrate their back four. So we come up against like two blocks, and we're getting the same thing at home. And that's why I keep going on about saying, if you have two up front, you then occupy the two centre-halves, and we can actually split them. Now people can make runs in between, and you can play 1-2s instead of going sideways.
I'd go three at the back. I'd go three centre backs, so you've got natural width in wide players can stay wide and give you width.
And only have one holding, and two.
Possibly at home. I mean, a lot of this is about personnel. You said, is it about personnel? Tetty and Tribal in that holding position is a different proposition to Vrancic and Reed, both of whom I quite like.
Yes, and likewise, and Alex Tetty. Yeah, what a miss he's been at the moment.
Well, can I just say that some of the criticism of Marley Watkins overnight has been balmy. He had a really good game. He looked the part last night, and I think people who were there saw that he really contributed.
I still personally think some of the criticism of Mario on Saturday, even if he's not playing at a certain level, was a little bit harsh. Let's get some comments, shall we? I'm going to look down here, Dan, so I hope that's the right camera. Frazmac's been in touch. Not sure what Farkas saw last night, but we were very pedestrian in possession. The build-up play was slow, which made it easy to defend against, and we created next to nothing bar one save from a free kick. Darren Thompson can't score, no service to strikers, worrying times. And Guy Fawkes, I don't know if it's the real one, I am wondering, well, yeah, quite, there we go. I am wondering why the countdown to On the Ball City has stopped before kickoff this season. Also, I believe the Depeche Mode song, I Just Can't Get Enough, should return to Carrow Road. This gets the Carrow Road crowd going. Atmosphere has been shocking for ages. There is an interesting thing with Park Life being played now, because the fans aren't really joining in with it, and I don't think the club can ditch it now, because that's what they've decided to do. There is loads of stuff about the atmosphere at Carrow Road, and I know it's a bit glib to say, well, if you win games, everything's going well, the atmosphere is great, and that's horrible, but ultimately, organically, that's what happens.
It's entirely true, and I take my hats off to the Along Come Norwich people who've tried to sort of formalise the let's get a chanting group going and let's get banners going, but it's like the bloke at away games always turns around away from the pitch, looks at the fans and says, "Come on then," and I'm thinking, no, I want to watch that. You know, I'm not particularly vocal, but I think people accept that I'm a supporter, and the atmosphere will come when the play gets right. Yeah. The previous point about only creating Nelson Oliveira was one-on-one on the goalkeeper in the 6-yard box and got tackled. Had he reacted, you know, like he does when he's on his game, we'd have got a point in a dramatic fashion, and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
That's a very good point. I think clearly Nelson isn't quite there yet. Right, this was going to be the point where we'd bring you some Daniel Farker, but we haven't got any. So, but what you can do, you can watch it because it's on the PinkUn YouTube channel. You don't have to watch it right now because we're in the middle of a show, but it is there for you to watch, along with my video verdict from the City Ground and loads of other Norwich City content, including a clip, I think, if it's up now, if it's not yet, it'll be up soon, from James Maddison, who turns 21 tomorrow, I think. So there we go. That's made these two feel very old. Now, we were
surprised because we thought he was 16.
He does look it. Now, I mean, we've spoken weeks on end about how good James Maddison's been this season. Absolutely spot on. Are we getting to the point? And he says the workload's been more than he's used to. Does he need dipping out? And it's really hard, I know, because Daniel's got stretched resources as it is.
No, I think now, you know, at 21 years of age, you just want to play every week. I think just keep him going. I think he'll learn from the experience. You know, all this thing about resting him, but I think at the moment he'll always be going on a sort of a crest of a wave, as it were, because at the moment he's been lauded, possibly as our best player. Now it's a little bit different at that age when you've just come up from Coventry in the lower leagues, as it were, and then you're into a struggling team and you're struggling yourself. But at the moment he's been almost been put as like the saviour. Oh, this is the best player we've got. I mean, after 5 games, all of a sudden they've talked about, well, he won't be here long, he'll be moving on, and it's ridiculous, you know. The lad's still got a lot to learn in his trade. He's doing a great job for the club at the present time, which is obviously good for him as well. And providing he keeps going and keeps his head level and his feet on the floor, then he will get a big move, if not go up there with Norwich.
I mean, ex-Coventry lad as well.
Hey, you see, you go to the Mecca. No, I mean, I know the Coventry supporters down there loved him. They really did, you know. But again, he played in almost a little bit more forward than he's playing here at the present time. They played him almost like as the modern day thing, this number 10.
Off the striker, yeah.
Because he has a great finish.
What he does is he wins us free kicks because he gets kicked. And I'll tell you what, Greg, if he was playing against me or you and I was rubbish, we'd kick him because he does that thing of turning back to beat you another time.
Yeah, but you have to remember, in mine, he wouldn't have got up again.
No, that's right. But so I mean, I think as well as the fact that, you know, I accept all this business about his 21 keep playing, but he's battered every game, isn't he? You know, his legs must be black and blue.
Well, there was a period with the Reading game. I mean, everyone was nailing his Achilles. The guy had an ice pack on his Achilles after every game.
Yeah. So there might be an argument for starting without him and bringing him on, but. He is our most creative player at the moment, our real quality.
I think that's a technique he has, though, isn't it? Because that's why he gets the Achilles and the ankles tapped, because he's got this great thing of holding the ball and just wait until the fella's just about to make a move on him, then he moves and goes again. So you're almost inviting the kick.
Yeah. But he also turns back on someone to do him again. And if they've done you once and they do him again, they're going to get a kick.
He will get one.
Notice Wes has stopped doing that now. I think he got sick of being kicked. Are we worried over some of the summer signings? Is that a worry over it? I mean, it's an interesting one because Norwich they've clearly tried to cut the cloth accordingly. You probably argue that the players were never going to be of the same quality as the ones that had left, possibly, although they were hungrier. Or are we still too soon to judge, even though it's November?
I had absolutely no qualms with the players that let go. I felt that just about all of them, really, or by maybe Ruddy in goal as such. But then I felt that was not a bad decision still. I think the rest of them, to be fair, were offering nothing to the club at the time, and I think it was good business. My only worry is that the replacements we've got have come from the German second division, which, with all due respects, is not as strong as our championship. And so I'm a little bit worried that we got rid of players which we've agreed with, but we haven't replaced them with a great deal better. So therefore, you know, all of a sudden we've got Daniel Farke coming in, and we suddenly lauded him as the Messiah. He's going to have this great German input and things like that. I haven't seen a great deal of difference to what we had last season, the season before that. I think it's very much continuing on the same vein, and that's my only worry. I think, you know, to me, you should, you know, in this, especially in the English league, you've got to have pace, and that's something we haven't got.
I think that in Tommy Tribal, that was a fantastic pick up. I think Zimmerman is growing into the job. I think people need to remember that some of our greatest heroes struggled when we first got them. Ewan, as he says in the first chapter, in the chapter of one of my books, you know, was absolutely lambasted. There was a PinkUn headline on a letter saying, "Is he the worst signing we've ever made?" And he is an all-time legend. And you have to, you know, it isn't. Greg will tell you, it isn't. We had so many changes. It's a tough old division, and some of them are struggling to find their feet. But there were glimpses. I saw enough pre-season to think that we will be competitive, and that's all you can hope.
Well, we've got a couple more questions here, shall we, before we move on to some bar game fun. God, these two are looking forward to that, I can tell you. What have we got here? Neil Austin, do you think Nelson's body language suggests he wants away? Oh, don't we love reading body language? That's always fun. Look at yours now, Greg, hey? No, You're loving it.
I think it's a load of rubbish. I think at the end of the day, every player goes out onto a pitch to give 110%. People express things slightly differently, you know. Funny enough, I was talking to my son the other day, and he's the same. He plays in local football.
Who does he play for? Let's give him a shout.
Seams, CYMS, and yeah,
what's his name? Tim Downs. What a name, eh?
Tim Downs, bless him.
Has he got Downs on the back of his shirt?
Downs but not out. The old favourite. But no, it's funny, he was telling me the other day, his coach was saying to him, you know, why do you beat yourself up every time you give a pass away? He said, could we sort of lose you for 5 minutes? And he said, well, that's because I've got standards, you know, and I want to keep the stand. And everyone reacts differently to things. So, you know, if Oliveira's sort of stance and things isn't what people want. Well, unlucky, but I don't go with anything that, when someone says that a player doesn't go out and give 110% or he's trying to play to get away, that's a load of rubbish. Every player gives 110%.
If he's trying to get away, he needs to score goals.
Exactly.
Because he's looked off the pace in the 2 games he's come back, and when he last season I saw him playing, as an older age player for the under 23s before he got in the first team. And he obviously isn't someone who can get up off a treatment couch and
everyone's different.
Hit the
different
ground
pain
running.
thresholds. Some people can run through it, through pain. Some people can't. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things. It is what it is. We're all different, and that's the beauty of it.
Right, I think we'll take a little break from the chat. Make sure you keep getting your questions in, because we've got loads here and we're going to keep going through them. It is now, as we are down the pub. It is a new pub, but it's time for the same old game. This is Flip the Bird. Now, Dan should be playing the Ulay. Last week saw a topsy-turvy clash as vital Norwich editor Nathan Tuck pipped City fan Jamie Saunders 9-7 to earn a coveted selfie with Wesley Moulahan, although both remain well short of early leader BBC Radio Norfolk's Richie Hancock, who, let's remind you, didn't tell us until after the game that he grew up in a pub. So there we go. So Mick and Greg, 2 competitive beasts, I'm sure. I've written down here. I'm sorry about that. Now is your time to shine.
Right.
You have a minute to flip as many of these beer mats as you can with one hand, one after the other. See how many you can collect. You've got a minute to do it. The winner gets that selfie with Wesley Moulahan. Although if you win, Mick, we'll give you some minutes to talk about your book. So that should inspire you. Let's see who's more Robert Flick than Flicky Van Wolfswinkel and play Flip the Bird. Dan, you ready with the timer? Yep, he says.
Okay.
3, 2, go! There we go. Yes, Greg's got an early one there. Mick's playing it very cool. He's looking cool and collected. And that's one. Mick, you got one there. One there. Mick's there. Greg's flying away. Oh, I think Greg's showing some pre-practice, but Mick's got the run of this now. He's doing well. He's happy. Greg's. Yeah.
To own up that last time I was in this pub, I was a little under the weather because of. Is this the right time to say this?
Probably not, Mick. No, probably not. Under the weather. He was feeling ill. Mick's just putting them on there and just adding them. I'm not really sure where we are. Greg's enjoying himself. Look at the focus. That is the bar staff are obviously loving it. They've dropped some stuff. Oh, Mick's drop a load. Quick. How many? 20 seconds. I can pick this up. Mick says he completes a 5. Greg is single-minded here.
10 at the moment.
What?
No time to count, Mick.
I'm giving it Greg.
How long have it's a long minute. That's time. That's time. I'm calling it. Well, Greg has got a massive pile there. Mick, let's just count. Let's count what that was. Let's count what that was.
I did a 5.
You did a 5. Mick says he did a 5. Greg, what are you on there? Anyone would have thought he's competitive.
12.
That's really good.
Is that good?
And you beat Mick.
Eye limb coordination. You never lose. You never lose it.
The only problem is you are still one short of Richie Hancock. But as we know, Richie Hancock grew up in a pub. So
can I make this little thing there? I did as well.
Did you really? All right.
My father was in Norwich at the time, and he had the South Alarms on Hall Road. But I can't say I grew up with pub. That was only for between 16 and 18. Okay. So not for years and years.
Your dad? Didn't he have a stall on the market?
No, not my dad. No, he had that pub. And then the Spread Eagle on Sussex Street was his next pub.
Formative years.
Formative years.
I was working for the PinkUn when Greg was coming into the team, when he was a bustling centre forward. I remember him very well. People don't realise he was a centre forward, but he was.
That was something of a revelation to me, to be honest. So should we take a selfie with Wesley Moulahan? We'll do that very briefly now. This is very exciting, obviously. So this doesn't make for very good video. I'm very sorry about that. But there we go. Right, Greg, you're in there.
Right, there we go.
3, 2, 1. I don't know why I'm in it. Sorry about that. There's absolutely no need for me to be in it. But Mick, Mick, let's talk about your book, shall we? Because I know that's why you're here. It is volume 3. You've obviously done a bit of chatting about it before, but compare it to the other 2 books you've done.
Well, I suppose that with book one, I'd not done it before, and I set out with a list of people I wanted to do because I knew they had stories that the fans needed to hear. So I'd people that I'd spoken to over the years and stories that I'd heard, and I wanted to share them. With book two, I tried to deal with some more serious topics. So we had Darren Eadie, we had Royal Fox talking about the racism he'd suffered, Darren Eadie mental health issues and so on, and some light and shade in there as well. So with book three, I thought I would look for people who the fans took to, but aren't necessarily, haven't got 600 appearances and 200 goals. So people like Dion, and I think the one that I perhaps love best is Simon Lappin. And basically, I only asked for him, I only tried to get him because of the song. and it was a shock when speaking to him to find that he doesn't have a Spanish accent at all.
No. So where did it even come from? That's the thing.
But I think without any false modesty, they work together. All three of them work together. The series work together, and years and years ago, I did an adult literacy book, an easy read, and tried to give a portrait of football by having 11 people who do very different jobs. So a stadium manager, a mascot, and tried to give a rounded portrait by 11 different views. And what Tales from the City, I think, do is introduce some younger fans to people that they should know about. And introduce and tell stories of celebrity fans and directors who are part of the fabric of the club, and together they tell us about this great club in the fine city.
Because I remember, I think of me growing up as a 16-year-old and watching Craig Bellamy play and Chris Sutton, well before that, Will Fox, Darren Eadie, it's bizarre, thinking how much it was just a joy to watch Darren Eadie, although I actually thought Keith O'Neill was a better player at the time. I don't know if I've ever told Darren that, but you sort of, you skip over, in terms of all our experience of watching and playing with former players, just how much the younger generations of fans coming through won't have experienced that, and they're all relying on anecdotal evidence to find out about it.
And so in this one, I'm particularly pleased that there are two absolute stars who wrote the history of this club with their deeds, and one is Duncan Forbes, who's not well enough to contribute a tale now, but who gave an interview in 2008, 2009, I think, which was used in a sort of feature chapter in a book that was never published, and so I've used that material with the blessing of his wife and made it into a tale. And Kenny Brown, who is sort of remembered as John Bond's right-hand man, but in fact Kenny Brown went on to manage the club for more games than anyone before or since in the history, and built the team which Mike Walker took into Europe. He also won the Milk Cup, arguably since when we won it before, when we won the League Cup before, it was a minor tournament. The only manager to have won a major trophy for Norwich. Because Brownie's such a great bloke, Greg, because people say, good old Brownie, lovely man, I think that disguises the fact that he was a very, very successful manager for this club.
Manager that you played under as well, of course, Greg.
Yeah, I must admit, Kenny and I never sort of got on too well, funny enough.
I wasn't going to ask too much, but
it's just one of those things. Sometimes you get on with some managers, sometimes you don't with others. It's just the way it happens. We didn't always see eye to eye, and that's why in the end I went off to Coventry. Because obviously, having been here for 11 years, I love living here. But eventually, you got to make a decision, and that's the one I made. And it proved the right one for me at the time. Kenny did do a great job here. You can't, at the end of the day, we've just been saying about it, it's all about results. And results and trophies, that's what people look for. And that's what obviously we want to start seeing come back here at some time.
Yeah, spot on. Just one more, Mick. Do you enjoy writing these books? I say writing, it's different, isn't it? You're sort of curating them rather than writing them yourself.
I do write some of them, some of it. So the format is that people are invited to write, and if they want help, I help. So that's how it works. Enjoy it. It becomes a sort of, this is going to sound terribly sued, but it becomes so important to me that I do these people justice, that it isn't entirely enjoyable until people start buying it, and I think maybe it's okay. My wife, who's a fan, people know I was a fan, I was living opposite when she and I got together. She was the first person who reads each chapter. And if I see her sniggering or going, wow, then I know I've got a product, and she mostly does.
Brilliant. Well, that's Tales from the City Volume 3, and will there be a fourth? I shouldn't probably plug that yet, but
I'm thinking about it. I don't want to do more of the same, but I'll just quickly say that I ought to, it's not. I don't get any more from selling them, but if you go to the Tales From, one word, talesfrom.com website, you can get the whole series, the 3 of them, for 21 quid or something.
bargain.
Solved.
Well, there you go, Mick. I mean, given you didn't win the bar game, Mick, that's good work. Top stuff. Well done. Right, it has been a busy week so far, so let's refresh on with the championship picture, shall we? While City were drawing with Barnsley at the weekend, there were excellent wins for Sheffield United, Villa, Wolves and Leeds. Ipswich picked up a point at Hull. Thank you, Dan. As for midweek, City, of course, lost at Forest, but most of the promotion contenders kept up their pace. Chris Coleman lost his first game in charge of Sunderland. It was goal crazy at Bramall Lane, while Preston picked up an excellent win at Ashton Gate. There are 3 games tonight with Ipswich and Leaders Wolves in action. The top of the table, it underlines how strong the leaders' current position is, of course, as Wolves. Leeds are back in the mix, while Aston Villa are in proper contention, although they may have to do without Jonathan Kodjia again through injury. Sadly, City are now 15th, 9 points off both the top 6 and bottom 3, if I've got that right in my maths, although we did say it's 6, isn't it? Sorry, so 6 points off the top 6 and 9 points off the bottom 3. I corrected myself there, don't think anyone noticed. The table has officially taken shape now too. There has been very little movement in the bottom half over the last few games. This weekend sees a Yorkshire derby to kick things off, while Ipswich head to Villa Park. Cardiff have a tricky Sunday at the City Ground. You're doing a great job, Dan, well done. Cardiff have a tricky Sunday at the City Ground before hosting the Canaries the following Friday. And as we all know, Alec Neil returns to Carrow Road for the first time with Preston. How do we view the table at the moment, gents? Because I get the feeling now we can really start to see a shape in it, and we can see the teams that are going to be properly challenging at the top end. And I mean, let's be frank, there's no way Norwich are finishing in the top 2 for this season already, is there? We can see that.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I agree with you. Usually around about Christmas, and we're nearly there. You say that it's taking shape. I think the top 2 or 3 are running away with it. But it's this is a division where if you put a run together, you climb the table. I think it's interesting that where Sunderland are. I was reading about their finances. We think we've got problems, and their parachute payments are entirely taken up with debt repayments. That's awful, I'm not sure what Chris Coleman, who I know quite well, I'm not sure what he thought he was walking into, but it's a devastating situation there.
Managers love to think they can turn clubs around, don't they? I think that's normally their dropping point. No, it doesn't.
Unless Chris Wilder, of course.
I mean, the interesting thing for me is Villa, because I think we're now starting. They've got loads of money. I mean, like Wolves have taken advantage of it this year, but Villa for me seem to be proper contenders, and we don't really know what Sheffield United will do for the rest of the season, do we? Because Sheffield United have been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, as just said, Chris Wilder. I mean, what a job he's done in football. The job he did at Northampton. Especially all the debt they had that time there, where they were almost going to get kicked out. They're going to go into administration and everything else, and they walked away with the league that year. So for him to, which really goes back to a little bit about when we said about where the players don't want to play and things like that. You had players there not getting paid 1 week, and they went and walked away with the league. So you have a bit of professional pride, which I think he installs that into his team. And Sheffield United, to be fair, have had a magnificent start again, having just got promoted.
I think the expenditure is interesting because money is key, and there's still people at Norwich saying, where's the money gone? And we've got an AGM next week. The accounts are crystal clear where the money's gone, absolutely crystal clear. We in the Premier League, I wrote it down, I'm sorry.
This is proper on the back of an envelope job, I like this.
Yeah. So in the Premier League 15-16, our income was 97 million, and our staff costs, that's everything, but that's basically player wages and pension funds and so on, 107 million. So even in the Premier League, with all that money, we were spending more on players. That's and in fact, if I were critical of the board, it's because we showed too much ambition. The fans are saying, spend money, stay up. We tried, that's what we did. We pushed them boat out. 16-17 in the Championship, which is the accounts we've got, our income was 75 million. That's 22 million off your income. any similarly sized business would go out of business with a drop like that. And our wages last season were 90 million. So our income didn't cover our costs. So this season with parachute payment, we don't yet know what these accounts will become available next October, November. Our parachute payment's gone down, and so it'll be another jump. We went down 22 million. It'll be down again, and if we don't go up, the parachute payments stop, and our TV income will be about 10 million. Instead of,
I think the question that supporters were asking was that the Christmas before we got promoted, obviously with Alex Neil, they said that their debt was gone, and in fact they were owed £30 million in the transfer fees. Then they get promoted, so straight away they go £50 million plus 30, there's 80.
Well, it doesn't work like that.
No, but I'm saying that's how supporters have been saying.
It just doesn't work like that. And what happens is there is no mystery, there is no conspiracy, there is no missing money. It's there in black and white. We spent it on players, transfers, and wages, and that's where it went. And also clearly on payments to Alex Neil and Jez Moxey. But in the Premier League season, we had to give them £11 million. Promotion bonus, Greg. Yeah. Players are not going to come to Championship side without the promise of a promotion basis. Yeah. And sadly, once we were in the Premier League this time, we signed players and couldn't get them to come with a relegation clause. No. So some of them haven't got relegation clauses. Yeah. To suggest that the money's gone missing is frankly innumerate. It's there in black and white. The figures are there.
Which leaves them in such a horrible position if they don't go up this year, because there is going to be such a massive turnover. There is no, for me, rebuild or building on this year if they don't go up, because you will be selling a player like James Maddison or an Alex Pritchard or Nelson Oliveira, and you won't be replacing them with their players anywhere near that level.
No, I mean what we need to do is get players off the wage bill who are on big wages and not playing, and that's Naismith and players winger.
Matt Jarvis?
Yeah, it's Matt Jarvis. You can't, and people say, well, get rid of them, but you can't just get rid of them because they're taking their money. But I would imagine, I don't know which contracts run out this year, but the rebuilding that Webb has started, it was never going to be a one transfer window job, so it will continue. And when we went down in 2014, Fulham, who came down with us, had to get rid of players like Hegeland, Richardson, Sidwell, top quality players, just cut them out. Cardiff, who came down with us, got rid of 44 players. Seriously, in terms of just ending contracts of youth players, banging people out on loan, selling 25 or 26. They got rid of 44 players and spent 6 million, and brought in about 30 million. Spent 6 million. So what happens normally to relegated clubs is what's happened to us this time. The anomaly is not what's happening this time; it's what we did the season we went up with Alex Neil.
Right, we're going to rattle through a few points, and you did touch on the AGM, Mick. It is, of course, Preston coming up this coming weekend. We'll talk about Alex Neil in a moment, but how important will it be headed to the AGM having a positive result? Because it does make a difference to
it makes a difference. Of course it does. It makes everything more upbeat, doesn't it? Because all of a sudden, we just said we're 6 points off the playoffs, as it were. You could suddenly, I wouldn't say we're going to be 3 points, but you could be, for instance, 4 or 5 points. Anything's close, and you think, hang on, we got it to Christmas, might have a chance still. I still think it'd be at the moment, it might be a little bit of a false sort of position in that sense. I think where we are is where we deserve to be at the moment with what we've got, and I think as Mick just said, now I think we're going to have to put up with that the way it is at the present time, and let's get stability going again, and then hopefully we can start building again.
Alex Neil. He's got to get a good reception on Saturday, hasn't he?
I'd hope so. I think if I would hope so, because if nothing else, he gave us Wembley, which was an utterly magnificent game.
Himself well as manager.
Yeah, he did, and he left with dignity and no recriminations and so on. I think he's an impact manager. That's what he did with us, and I'm not sure he's there for a long-term job anywhere. Which
we were kind of seeing with Preston a little bit. Made a great start. Just tailed off recently. A great result on Tuesday night at Bristol City. Although I think Callum O'Dowda has since apologised on Twitter for their performance at Bristol City. So they obviously got a decent team to play against, Preston. And it's just I don't know, we sometimes get these little perfect storms, don't we? These little subplots that do no one any favours, and it feels like this is one on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's obviously going to be an interesting one. He's going to come here wanting Preston obviously to turn us over because things didn't go as well as he wanted in the end. I haven't said I don't think it hurt him financially, but you know, it softens the blow a little bit, doesn't it? But then again, we have professional pride, so he's going to come here and obviously not only because he's playing against Norwich City, but because Preston have dipped a little bit lately, so he's going to want to obviously get them going again. But well, I think it makes it an interesting one.
Should we rattle through your 11s, shall we? Which one should we have first, Dan? You're in charge. Mick, you're 11. Take us through this then.
I don't know about the injury situation, so I've assumed that Closer's not fit after last night and seen him go off. So I thought the way we played last night and the fact that it enabled us to get bodies forward with our possession and get extra people into the box. I wouldn't change the system. I wouldn't change the starting lineup. Other than because I don't think we've got many options, you know. And clearly, if you told me Tetty and Tribal were fit, I'd put them in. But I think we should go with what we got. I think people will be surprised by Watkins, who did play well. The only change I would make is I'd put Jerome in instead of Nelson, because I think he gives us so much more. Other than, you know, obviously you want goals from your centre forward, but he contributes so much more. And his movement off the ball and his running the channels and bringing other players into it, I think I would put him in.
We did have a question actually from Chris Johnson. Have we missed the two Alexes more than we realised? Which I guess is Pritchard and most certainly Alex Tetty. Yes. Greg, let's have a look at your 11, shall we?
Yeah, well, I've gone because, again, I keep going on about the fact that I want two up front. So, again, I've gone with two up front. I just think, I believe that Jerome, is that the same as Mick? I think Jerome is very... Well, I think it's underrated by supporters. Supporters moan at him, they say he's not a great finisher. And I keep telling them, well, it's very hard to play up front on your own. You know, you're trying to chase the channels. You know, you can't do both. You can't chase the channels and get in the box. And that's why I would go with both. And I've already said earlier on that I just feel that, like of our midfield, we need people to play into if we're going to get past their back four. So hence why I've gone with Jerome and Oliver up front. Which then, because again we're at home, I think we've got to try and get people off the seats a little bit more. We've got to go and take the game because they're going to sit back deep. I've only left one holding instead of two, so I've put Reed there holding, and then obviously with Madison the way he's playing, unless they want to leave him out because of giving him a rest, but the way he's playing, he wouldn't leave him out. Houlihan, I'm a great believer in at home especially. And then I just want that pace, that bit of pace that you can suddenly ignite things at times, you know, hence why Wild shooting.
Absolutely, spark. Go on then, rattle off a prediction. Mick?
Listen, I'm so useless. I'm really useless at that. I think we'll edge it.
We'll edge it, we'll take that.
I've never ever said that Norwich will lose a game ever at home, so so I'm going to go, I think we'll win it 2-0.
I like that, Greg, great stuff. I like that, very good. I've just got one comment here from David Vincent. Just keep believing this division is harder to get out of now with the money making it like a two-tier Premier League second tier. It will turn around, sure of it. Huddersfield experienced it and they made it happen. I think that note is what we should leave it on. That is it for us for tonight. Remember, you can catch, I'm going to come on here, Dan. You can catch all of this show and the rest of our superb Norwich City content on PinkUn YouTube channel. Nice to see the handshakes, which is youtube.com/the PinkUn channel. You can, of course, check out the Facebook page, fb.me/the PinkUn, or pinkun.com, of course. Now, big thanks to all the crew, to Greg and Mick for an absolute stellar evening. Really enjoyed it, gentlemen. Thank you to everyone here at the Fat Cat and Canary for letting us sit down and talk about football for an hour or so. And of course to you for watching and getting involved. We really appreciate it. We'll be back live next Wednesday from the slightly earlier time of 6:30 p.m, all being well, and from outside Carrow Road as we tee up next week's AGM. Hopefully. I have asked for permission, just so everyone's aware of it. If you're heading along, come along and please say hello. Until then, here's to a weekend favour from Alec. Good night.